Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast. We are well and truly into the holiday season, which means there's only time for one thing. It's a gift from us to you. It is unqualified, far too early, and way overreactionary 2026 season predictions. I'm Jesse. That's Liam. We are fully aware the season is 4 months away. We know that. We know how to count. However, we also know if there's one thing the AFL want, it's for us to keep on talking about the AFL all times. Don't even think about the cricket. Don't think about spring racing. Don't even think about anything else that's happening anywhere else in the world. We must be simply glued to our monitors watching Gettable, watching All Access, watching the random Saturday shows they put Kane Corns on. You know, I don't consume anything else apart from specifically afl.com.au and, of course, this podcast, the two resources you need, both of which are of varying quality. Liam, how are you? How are you going?
Jesse, I'm doing very well, man. I'm doing very well indeed. I'm looking forward to our little podcast tonight where we get to blather on about things that, you know, that we just made up in our heads. I'm excited for that. Before we get any further, of course, at @CMPerfect_AFL on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. The last three for our audio podcast, of course. And Jesse, no, I'm doing okay, man. I'm doing okay. We've obviously had we're taking a little bit of time off in between each episode at the moment because let's get real. We're in the off season. What's to talk about? The draft is done now. We've had our two videos that have caused quite the stir amongst our very passionate, well, I'm going to say fans. They're fans now. Thank you for supporting us. I
don't think a couple of them are fans, Liam.
No, I don't think so. But it's good. It's good to see impassioned AFL fans getting involved in the conversation. That is what we want. Regardless if you agree or disagree, get involved in the conversation in the comments below. We enjoy it. You enjoy it, don't you, Jesse? You got involved last time as well.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great when people chime in and they accuse me of not knowing what they're talking about. So what are we talking about today, Lem?
Jesse, that was very, very good self-control there, my friend. Very well done indeed.
It is 2 minutes into this video. I would like all 18 club supporters to stick around for at least another 4 minutes.
Okay.
Apparently that's the magic number. So if you click off at 5:59, I'll know.
You'll know.
What are we talking about today? Season predictions. Way too early season predictions.
Way too early, Jesse. What do we even know about the season 2026? We know nothing about it.
I know there's going to be football played, maybe.
Listen, that's a tick. We know there's rule changes coming in. That's a tick. We know that. We know which players have gone where. That's a tick. We know that. But outside of that, Jesse, we know sweet FA. But we have some ideas. We have some thoughts. We have some opinions as to what might happen in season 2026. So we thought we'd put them out there for you guys to ingest. Give your thoughts and disagree as you usually do. We enjoy it.
They don't always disagree.
No, they don't. Actually, do you know what I did like about this week's comments, Jesse, or last episode's comments was that it wasn't just a few like keep up your day jobs. You know, that's pretty low effort. We don't really like low effort. At least this time, people gave some.
I don't mind the sledging. I don't mind the sledging.
Sledging's
like,
fine.
Give up your day. Don't give up your day jobs is a good sledge. It's objectively a good sledge.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'm going to hear it plenty more.
Of course, but it's kind of like low-hanging fruit. At least this like last week, and look, I don't mind calling them out. The Essendon supporters were very, 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 very passionate about your words, Jesse. But at least they gave time to put some words into those comments. They gave the time, and we appreciate that. But we're talking about the ladder first up, Jesse. Should we start with the ladder, and then we're going to go into a few other bits and bobs? Should we start with the ladder, though?
I think we should. And Liam, we're not doing this in a traditional 1 to 18 ordering because, you know, although this is the way too early 2026 predictions, I feel like it's too early even for that. So we've done some clumps here because we loved clumps in season 2024. They were a big feature of what was then the Dodgy Punts AFL podcast for at least the first half of that season. We've done 5 clumps, Liam. How have you clumped us here on this lovely December day?
All right, the clumps are going as follows, Jesse. Our predicted top 4, our Inbetweeners, because obviously we have the wildcard now. So the Inbetweeners are those two teams that fit right between the top 4 and the wildcard. I was nearly going to call it purgatory, but I thought that wouldn't be very fun. So the Inbetweeners is there. The wildcard is obviously going from 7 through to 10. Your bottom 8, which also includes your wooden spooners as well. And before you come out to me, I know the bottom 8 is only 7 teams. I think you can put 2 and 2 together. Jesse.
Hey, Liam, I'm disliking and telling you to keep your day job.
Okay, fair enough. I will. I will. Now, Jesse, would you like to go first, or should we just work our way down our top 4s etc., as we go, because there are some similarities between our two ladders.
Surely we work upwards here and go 18 up.
Okay, we can do that. Let's do that. Start at the bottom. Start it from the bottom. Let's go, Jesse. Who do you think is going to be the spooner for the year 2026?
I would like to say otherwise because they've had it pretty rough in the last couple of seasons, but I think it's one more year down here for West Coast.
Okay.
I think we're looking at one more season for them where they're going to probably struggle to win 4 games. I think I would actually be quite happy for them on that basis. I think we talked about this in a video we did fairly recently where we said, look, it's all about pass marks when it comes to this stuff. They could win 4 games and still finish last. That would be a significant improvement on winning 1 game and finishing last. And it also depends on how you're playing outside of those 4 games as well. I don't think we're going to see West Coast rocket up the ladder here. I don't know how much of an impact a guy like Starcevic is going to have. He'll be an improvement. For sure, he'll be an improvement. But is he going to be the difference between 18th and 16th? I'm not sure. There's still obviously the need to invest in that youthful side of things. So Harley Reid, season number 3, well, he's committed now. He's signed that dotted line. He needs to step up and put his big boy pants on. And we're going to talk about big boy pants a lot in this episode. But Harley's now one of those guys that really does need to step up and say, well, West Coast have shown the faith in me. Let's not get it twisted. It's not about Harley Reid showing faith in West Coast. No, West Coast is still the football club here. West Coast have shown the faith in Harley Reid to, make sure they can tie him down for as long as they can. Well, Harley Reid needs to repay that now.
Yes.
So he's going to have a big season. It's too early for guys like, I think, Dersma and Duff Titler and Lindsay. I think, they integrate into the team, but it'd be harsh to expect anything. The big ones for me, Hewitt, you're looking at D-Day this season for me. It is demonstrate top 20, the best 23 or be delisted for me with Hewitt at this point. And Shanahan. I'm very hot on Job Shanahan. I think he's going to be a very good player for a very long time for West Coast. We now need to see him do it alongside Waterman, who should be returning, and see how that dynamic works going forward. That's what I want to see from West Coast this season.
Fair enough, Jesse. Now, this is mine is not a retaliation for last week's comments. It is not. I've put Essendon as the Wooden Spooners because I think if you look at the list profiles for Essendon and the Eagles, they're both a similar age bracket, fairly similar. I actually think that the Eagles, even with their younger list and them still having a long way to go, I don't think they're going to shoot up the ladder by any stretch of the imagination. But there's just something about the way that they're put together and they're coached that has a bit more stability in my mind than what Essendon seem to have going into this season. I think there's a bit more, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Consternation, anger or frustration at Essendon, whereas I feel like the Eagles towards the end of last season were starting to get a little bit of cohesion at least. They weren't winning games, they were still getting smashed, but they were putting some pieces together. I think bringing in a few of the SSPs as well with a bit more experience, obviously, SSPs can work, they cannot. I mean, I'm pretty sure Vossi came to us as an SSP, right? But Devin Robertson, Philip McRae, Harry Schoenberger are both the 3 names that have experience coming into a team that is very young. I think the Eagles... The
thing with these guys is that they were delisted for a reason, or they've come out of contract for a reason.
Yeah, sure, but what you could say the same thing for a lot of people who have been SSPs, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to work in a new system.
No, not at all.
So they might not have worked.
It's worth caveating that
of course.
just because a player's played 50, 100 games doesn't mean they're good.
No, I agree with that, Jesse. 100% agree. But I think there's going to be a bit more. Like the Eagles had a team last year that just looked like they were young everywhere. Like they were playing not Peel, that's ours. The West Coast Eagles, we'll say Waffle players coming in. I think this year they're going to have a little bit more stability, a little bit more. And I think hopefully these young kids that are coming in will get a bit more run as well. I just don't know that the Bombers are going to have. I don't think they're going to have a good year. And I think that it's going to be a battle between the Eagles and the Bombers for that bottom position. And I'm not too sure if some of this is just hope, but I think the Eagles might get maybe 1 game more than the Bombers and they'll hit the bottom spot. That's my thoughts, Jesse. That's what I'm thinking.
Am I allowed to have an opinion on Essendon this week?
I don't see why you can't, Jesse. Just because, I mean, no one else comments, so go for it.
Okay, so just for time stamping purposes,
Sure.
I'm starting this.
Yep.
Now, so Essendon fans, if you don't like this, move on. Look, my thing with Essendon is I think that they still have enough quality on the list to be avoiding the spoon. A guy like Peter Wright, obviously a guy like Zach Merritt, Darcy Parish if he can get fit. There's enough individual pieces here that it doesn't necessarily need to be a wooden spoon side. But I agree, Liam, this season has the potential to be a complete disaster off-field for Essendon. To a point I think you were dancing around before, McQualter is safe in his job. Brad Scott is not. And there's no 2 ways about that. Is Dyson Sharp going to get a fair shake of the sauce bottle with Zach Merritt still in the team? Is Sullivan Roby going to come out of his preseason unscathed, and he's going to have a modified preseason? We already know that.
Yep.
Is he going to be able to get those minutes early doors and have an impact? Are we going to be able to see Farah slotting off a half back line? There's going to be vacancies. McGrath's not going to be there. Redmond's had some injury problems in the last 12 months. We know that. Here's the other one. Ridley's just had another hamstring complaint in the preseason as well. So, Farah's the one that will probably get the most opportunity out of their 3 main draft picks from a couple of weeks ago. So we'll see how that shakes out. My concern is for Essendon is if guys like Caddy don't kick on in the way that some other of their more recent draft picks have. You look at Hobbs, Yatsidis, all those guys. You're just looking at another position that then needs to be filled.
Yeah. They
didn't do that in the draft. They made it very clear they wanted to go for midfielders. They did get a passing grade for that. But they stuck to their guns and they made their intent very clear on that. They wanted to get midfielders and running players to beef up that part of the ground. At the end of the day, their best player doesn't want to be there. Essendon fans are welcome to come in the comments and tell me that Zach Merritt wants to be there, and I will go to that same comment and tell them just that they're wrong. Yeah. Because you don't have that level of a combat in the public domain when you want to remain at your employer. That is a level of spite and animosity and barb trading that cannot be reconciled. Especially if this is like Michael Jordan when he was getting pushed out of Chicago in '98. You could maybe say, yeah, okay, but you got to remember, that's a dynastic team with the best player in the competition and the best player of all time versus a side that is going to be bottom 4, is probably going to be bottom 2, to your point, and clearly has some issues with teammate receptiveness for Zach Merritt. I mean, this is a guy that said before that he thinks the lower players should be paid less so he can be paid more. He's clearly going to be Zach Merritt focused, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that.
Sure.
For Zach Merritt. But where this is for the moment for Essendon, this is a disaster for them. I mean, is it not? I know I got in trouble for this a fortnight ago, but this is not good list management to keep him.
Yeah.
And we're going to see what happens when, Roby makes a mistake. I'm not picking on Roby, but he's the highest draft pick. What happens when he gets done holding the ball because he didn't hear Merritt's call for an outside hand pass? Is Merritt going to go and start shouting at him because he didn't get the possession that he wanted? Is there going to be this isolationist, cold shoulder behaviour?
That's very granular. That's very specific.
It is very specific. But do you get my point here, though?
I do.
This does not shape as a cohesive team.
Mm. No, and that's precisely my point.
Are his teammates going to pass to Merritt? I know that sounds ridiculous.
Look,
are they?
It'll be an interesting thing to watch this season, the dynamic between Merritt and the rest of the Essendon players for sure. But we won't spend too much time on that, Jesse. Essendon listeners, you can come back in now. Jesse's done. We're moving on.
That was about 4 minutes. So welcome back, Essendon. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
No,
and remember, for the Essendon ones, that's the button that goes the upwards thumb.
Yes, upwards thumb.
Because I know you didn't do that one very much last week or last fortnight, and that's okay.
That's fine.
Because apparently a passing grade makes people very upset. Okay.
It wasn't even it doesn't matter. Okay, Jesse, we'll move on to our next one. The rest of the bottom 8 that we've got here. Now, for the most part, we are in agreement. Obviously, our Essendon and Eagles are switched. They're both in the bottom 8 anyway. There's only one team different that we've got in here, so we'll go through the rest of them. So we've both got the D's, the Tigers, the Blues, North, and Port. The only differences we have are you have Sydney in the bottom 8. I have St Kilda. Those are the only differences. Jesse, speak to yours, please. And I might not speak too much about mine because it might come up in a little bit.
Okay.
But you go first.
Melbourne, well, the rebuild starts now. They've clearly gotten a fresher list. I think you can make the argument they are spoon contenders as well, just purely on the amount of list turnover they've had with the likes of Oliver and Petrarca going out.
Yep.
I'm really worried about the fact they burnt that pick on Pickett.
You are?
I'm worried about that because, it's extremely high risk, high reward. And I understand why you're down here. There's an ability to do that. But do you want to be down here for another few years with Tasmania's concessions coming in? I think I'm still concerned about that. I think I gave that a D, a fortnight ago. I think, honestly, I would probably give it an F now with a bit more time to think on it. It's just bizarre. In my personal opinion, I thought that was bizarre. However, in saying that, Lindsay, Langford, I'm very, very positive on these two. I think they're going to have very good seasons. They continue to develop into the system. They've still got pieces. Van Rooyen's the big question mark for me. If he can solidify himself and have a strong season, that will help Melbourne a lot. Cozzy Pickett has a potential now to go into All-Australian caliber midfielder because he's probably going to be the primary guy. Without Oliver and Petrarca around, I would say that's likely now to be Cozzy Pickett's show in the guts. Max Gawn is still capable of producing an All-Australian season next year. So it's not all doom and gloom for Melbourne. They've got some good young kids coming through. They've still got some very handy vets that can keep them off that bottom part of the ladder, that bottom two. But I do think, if things go wrong, Stephen King's game plan doesn't really get across early. They could be facing a very tough start, and it's a long season when you start, 0-6, 1-7, like those type of numbers. It can be a very long season. So they need to avoid a bad start the days. They need to be competitive early because they were teetering around that last year. I think they were 0-4 and then they beat Fremantle. They did not have a great start last season, and it really did weigh them down like an anchor, ironically, given they beat Fremantle. They struggled. Richmond, I think this is quite an exciting team to watch next year, the Tigers.
But we know where
they're
at.
To like.
But we know where they're at. Yeah.
We do. I think they're going to struggle to win more than, let's see, 8. I know it's very arbitrary to do these numbers, but I think they're probably looking at around 8 wins as a very good season next year. But excitingly for them, they've drafted well, in my view. I think they've done very well there. And the thing with these teams is, and we're going to talk about drafting less and less as we go in this list, but they've drafted, when you look at this part of the ladder, these guys are going to play, right?
Yes.
Like if they're fit, they're probably going to play.
Yep.
Because the list just is not that good. That's why they're down here.
Yes.
So you want guys that are both going to be very good long term, but can also have an instant impact. And that's hard to do. It's very hard to do. But the Tigers did that last year, and I think despite the fact they still didn't win very many games, I think their approach of burn everything to the ground and start again worked and is working. And, guys like Armstrong can get a full pre-season underneath them now. That's going to really help his development. Obviously, Lawler injury interrupted 2025. How can he go in 2026? There's so many different opportunities for Richmond to develop throughout their list still that we just don't know how good they can be in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
Still a development season for them. I'm going to come back to Carlton because I think we're going to talk about them probably a bit more depth, and I'll just fly through the next two.
Sure.
North, I'm expecting a lot more from North this season than what we've seen in the past few. That's burnt me before. But simply put, they have to start getting good at some point with the list pieces they've assembled. This is that year for them. They've got a very good list relative to the teams around them. If they can put it all together, they should be able to accelerate up the ladder a bit. Port, I'm very concerned about Port, just purely because I don't think they're very good. And how much of airtime in 2026 is going to be about Port Adelaide versus Zach Butters. That could really derail the season. The constant noise about where Zach Butters is going to play his football in 2027.
Also,
that's going to be a derailment.
And also the new coach factor coming in, obviously, Josh Carr.
I think the new coach is a bit of a positive, to be honest. I think Port
well, I think so too.
A tired team last season.
Sure. No, I agree. I think the new coach is good, but a new coach, as we've seen with Dean Cox, obviously as well, sometimes takes a little bit of time to get those cogs turning.
Yeah, that is true.
Especially when because Carr, similar to Cox, has been in that system at Port Adelaide for a little bit now. So sometimes that transition isn't as tickety-boo as you'd hope it to be. So we'll see how that cracks on. We'll leave the Saints and the Swans for a second. Do you want to come back to the Blues?
Yeah, let's talk Carlton because I wanted to find myself putting Carlton in a wild card spot. I really did because it feels like such a waste for them to be down here. Like I went into this doing my 1 to 18 thinking I'll probably have Carlton in a wild card spot. And then I went 18 up when I did this. And I kind of got to Richmond. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see mine is kind of in order if you read right to left and then down up. So I did. Yeah, no, that made no sense. Reading in reverse order here: West Coast, Essendon, Melbourne, Richmond. I got to there, so I got the bottom 4 done, and then I thought, I'm not sure about Port. I don't want to condemn them to 14th. I think North are better than 14th. I think there's other teams that we'll talk about soon that aren't going to plummet, that should be trending upwards. And then I just kind of came to Carlton and said, well, what's going to demonstrably improve here? Because they've lost Dakota, they've lost Silvani, so they've lost some senior players in that regard. Obviously, they've lost Charlie Curnow. Now, Charlie Curnow is going to be talked about a bit later on, but he is clearly the focal point of that Carlton attack. I know Harry Mackay is very good in his own right, but Curnow is the focal point of that attack. I'm concerned about Patrick Cripps and the drop in productivity in 2025 compared to 2024 and previous. That's alarming for me when a guy that doesn't have a lot of utility, he's unbelievably good at the one thing he is unbelievably good at, but he's not capable of playing resting forward. We know that by now. That's a worry for me. So then you're looking at guys like Jagger Smith coming off an ACL season, Harry Dean as a first-year player, Liam Reedy as a Fremantle third banana ruckman, and we'll have Ollie Florent, I think, made his way there as well, didn't he? You know, these are your improving guys. These are your guys that are going to have to improve into the team. You know, Hewitt's 30. I don't think we're going to see a better season from him than we saw this season, and he was very good this year. So if he holds that, that's great, and that's a win for Carlton because he was genuinely very good this year. But he's probably only got that level of production for another 2 or so seasons, this 2026 being one of those. Chera hasn't worked. And that's okay.
And he's been there for a minute. He's been there for a few years now.
He's had 4 seasons at Carlton because he went in 22.
Yeah, right. Okay.
He's had his chance.
Yeah.
He's a good player. He's nothing more. So I look at this and I think I know what we've seen with Carlton in the past is the fan base can really get agitated and offside. I think this is going to be a difficult start for Carlton, and they're not going to be able to recover it. And I think Michael Voss, and I said this in one of our episodes in 2025. I reckon about round 18. I said Michael Voss is not a bad coach.
Yes,
but he's a bad coach for Carlton.
Yep.
And these two they're better apart. Like, no fault divorce. I think they should have done that coming into this season, to be honest, because the writing's on the wall with this list to an extent for me. Like, they've got some great young pieces. Like, you know, you can build a core around the likes of Dean Smith. I think Iceland's a great get as well from their academy.
Sure.
Big, strong midfielder. I think he's a great opportunity to take Patrick Cripps' spot in, you know, a year or 2 years' time. But I think we're already talking about the future for Carlton. We're not talking about the present with this team, are we?
No.
Are Carlton premiership contenders this season?
No, not at all, Jesse. I think I had the same problem with you as you when putting this list together.
A lot of people are having problems with me on this podcast lately.
That's true.
You're not the first.
I'm in here as well. Get out of here, Jesse. You're wrong. Actually, no. I agree with you in this sense. I agree with you because I did the same thing. Put my list together. Put my predicted ladder, and I was like, Carlton. I cannot put them.
Look. To be clear, I want to be wrong here. Just
Sure.
like I want to be wrong with most of these clubs down here.
Yeah.
Because we can't have a repeat of last season for the sake of the competition.
Jesse, these are way too early predictions. They could be wrong. They could all be wrong.
They probably will be wrong.
Probably will be wrong.
I'm alarmed that so many of mine are similar to yours.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, we've got a fairly, and I actually did mine before you even gave me yours.
I was going to say, did you wait for me?
No, not at all. Not at all. Okay. I don't need you that much. I don't need to hold my hand that much, Jesse. But it was actually very fascinating. Like, obviously, as we get towards the Wildcarders and above, we have some differences. But let's talk about the bottom 8 differences, Jesse. We've got one each, which is the Swans and the bottom 8 for you and the Saints for me. I'm not going to talk about the Saints too much because in one of our slides coming up, I kind of go into that a little bit more.
Do we want to leave St Kilda then for that?
I will leave St Kilda for that, from my end anyway. Obviously, you've got them a bit further up, but why we put the Swans in the bottom 8?
I don't think he's very good, Liam. And I don't know if Dean Cox is the guy. I look when you see a new coach come in, right?
Yep.
And you can see the game has evolved rapidly the last 3 seasons in stand. You know, Dean Cox has been in the coalface of that in a very good Sydney side under a very good senior coach. I don't know if it's paralysis by analysis. I don't know if he overcompensated for a couple of injuries, and it was pretty major injuries to be fair as well for Sydney. The brand was awful, and it was not a brand that is going to be able to win new games of football. There's another club we'll talk about in a little bit. I think is almost has the inverse of this problem, but I'm concerned with what they offer. Now they filled the key vacancy, which was we don't have a very good key forward. They filled that. That's a huge step in the right direction from where they were last season because they struggled in front of goals.
They did.
However, defensively, I think there are concerns one-on-one as well. And there'll be a couple of sides that when they move the ball quickly, which is becoming gradually more in vogue. I mean, I think 5 of my top 6 clubs this season I would classify as fast ball movers.
Yep.
Or, no, I'll say 4.5, because there's one that really can turn it on. Sydney aren't that, and when they played fast ball moving sides, like Hawthorn, like Gold Coast, even like GWS, they were torched. They were absolutely torched last season. That's a limiting factor. Now, they might be good enough to squeak 10th, 9th, or 8th. They very may well be. I've got them in 11th. So, and obviously that's a lot more of a difference than it would have been last season, because you're talking finals, no finals. But I think on balance, Sydney are somewhere between the 9th and the 12th best team going into this season. I've got them in 11th.
That's it. I think the Saints Swans, for me, are potentially quite interchangeable, because both of them for me rely on a specific caveat, like both of those teams. And I'll talk about this as it comes to Sydney, because we'll move on from the bottom 8 into our Wildcarders now, because I think it makes sense. It's a natural progression. So I'll get to my Saints and why I've got them in the bottom 8 later. But similar to the Saints, the thing that I'm worried about with the Swans is their depth, right? So when you saw Goulden come back last year, towards the end of the season, they were a different team altogether. But you're basing that on one player, right? So when you've got a healthy Goulden in that team, and Cox in his second year, I think he's going to maybe get some of those nervous cobwebs out and come through with a bit of a better plan this season. I think they're going to raise up a little bit this season, the Swans. Again, based on nothing but vibes. Jesse, you know that's what I work with. I work with vibes here, not with analysis. That's your job. But I think the Charlie Curnow is an interesting one. I do agree they needed that forward piece, but I saw more out of the Swans and their potential ceiling than I do with the Saints, even with their changes. That's what I'll say. I'll leave it at that. But we'll move on to the other teams. We've both got the Pies in the wild card round, Jesse. I'm a bit ready for the Pies to slide now. I think they're going to have to start blooding a few more of the younger kids. They've kind of been a bit hesitant to do that, it seems, for the last few years. Quite an older list, but they're going to have to start doing that at some point, right? I think this might be the year they start doing that. It's
got very last dance feels about it for Collingwood this season, because it's Scott Pendlebury's last chance. It's probably still Sidebottom's last chance.
Yep.
They've changed the list. Obviously, Brody Marchek's gone out. Yep. That's a big change, because he has been such a centerpiece of that forward structure now for nearly a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, he was underpinning that forward line in 2018 when Collingwood were grand finalists. And you're talking about it now, 2026, without him. Mason Cox, obviously, as well. I think they haven't lost any superstars, but they've lost identity players that have helped shape what Collingwood are. Now, on one hand, if they're not productive anymore, like Cox hasn't been, don't worry, we'll get to that, then that is okay.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of reliance now on McStay. Huge amount of reliance on Dan McStay to step up and make the point. Obviously, Ash Johnson hasn't worked out either, so the forward line dynamic has changed for Collingwood, and they were very good last season with their band of small, so your Schultzes, your Bobby Hills. Elliott obviously had a career peak season. They were able to generate goals from all across that forward six, and it worked. It was slightly unconventional, but it worked. They now need to repeat that again, and I think I got flamed for saying that I like meat and potatoes when it comes to certain selection decisions and the way you build a list. I think Collingwood are missing a meat and potatoes forward at the moment. Just your essential, your main food group. It's not flashy.
Yep.
It's not gonna win MasterChef. but it might just win you games of football.
Sure.
And if you look at the teams up the top, Adelaide have a meat and potatoes forward. Brisbane certainly do now with their recruitment decisions. Gold Coast do. The Dogs do. The Cats do. Even teams like Fremantle, GWS, when he plays, St Kilda allegedly have one. So, there's a lot there to be said for that forward structure. Yes, Collingwood were able to go against the grain last season, and it did work, and no one is disputing that. But now it needs to work again. And I'm not sure. I think they're going to be... They should play finals. They should play finals. I would not be surprised if they finish 5th or 6th. Would not surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, I mean, they
just ended up here. Yeah, because I had a few teams trending pretty aggressively upwards, and that's meant I've had to push a couple of teams down. Collingwood are one of those.
Yeah. Fair share. I think a wild card spot is actually pretty fair for the Pies this year. I think that's where they'll probably find themselves. Like you said, there's a lot of teams coming through pretty fast, and Collingwood are going to have to get out of the way at some stage. And I think they won't completely capitulate and fall out, but they're going to need to move aside just a smidge this season, I would say. The Giants, yes, we both got them in our wild carders as well. They're the will they, won't they team, the Giants.
This could be the capitulators for me.
Okay.
This or the team we'll talk about next, they could be the two biggest capitulators for me this season, just because expectations are a funny thing with teams like this. Now, and really, you could replicate this for... Can we do this together, actually, Universe and Fremantle? Because honestly, I think the narrative is the same.
For you, yeah, sure.
So I'll do Universe and Fremantle together here.
Yeah, to be clear, this is Jesse's wildcarders, so Giants, Dockers, the Pies, and the Saints. So you're gonna get those Giants and Dockers together.
I am, because I feel like, honestly, you could pretty much Control-C, Control-V the narrative here.
Okay.
There is enormous expectations on these lists. Now, you could argue that Fremantle's expectation is bigger because of market size, etc., whatever.
Sure.
But the reality is, a lot has been expected of these two teams in the last couple of years. Neither have delivered to this point. Now, when that happens, the internal doubt can start to creep in. GWS have Aaron Cadman, who could potentially be the next forward superstar, and there's a couple of those floating around, but he's got everything in terms of tools. They've brought in Clayton Oliverton, already stacked midfield, so that could be really successful for them. But I still don't like their defensive structure, and I'm still worried about how they're going to be able to respond to surges from opposition teams, because they've collapsed under that innumerable times when they hit the international. Their ruck stocks are still weak in my eyes. Losing Darcy Jones for an entire season, that's a disaster. He's a heart and soul player.
Yeah,
he's a conduit for this team. You don't realise how good he is until he's not there. I think we're going to realise that very quickly, how much of an impact he makes on the Giants. As for Fremantle, there's a key limiting factor here for the Dockers, and it's not on the field. This is Justin Lemuel's 7th season in charge. If nothing changes tactically, or very little changes tactically, they're not going to be a top 4 side. It's just not going to happen. They won 16 games in 2025. And this is the inverse to Sydney I was referring to, right? Because Fremantle's game style, for the most part, can get you wins. The problem is, though, there is no ability to call audibles and react to what's happening until it's too late. And you can talk about both Sydney games, the Melbourne game last season, and crucially and unwaveringly, and most importantly, the final. Now, you can. It doesn't matter to me that they've won the most amount of games they've ever had under Justin Lemuel. You know what? They exited the finals a week earlier than they did in 2022, when they won less. So, what does that say? That's objectively, that is going backwards. Because it doesn't matter what you do. The new strategic plan for Fremantle is, we're not going to give a number on premierships. Why? You haven't got one. Why not? Is Fremantle afraid of success now? Is it the narrative that the Fremantle Football Club is pushing, that they're afraid of the expectation? Because to me, there is now a fear of success at the Fremantle Football Club. They've gone for this ongoing employment agreement with Justin Lemuel. An employment agreement is 0 from 2 for coaches in the past. David Noble, Brandon Bolton, that gets 2.
Thumbs down for the audio listeners there.
Big, and the Essendon supporters too. I'm doing pretty. I'm being too harsh.
You weren't too harsh last week either. It didn't matter.
No, C+ is a pass grade, by the way. I'm so alarmed that I look at this list and think top 4, and yet I'm putting them in 8th.
Yeah. I think this is probably why I've chucked him in.
And I don't think he'll be sacked. I think if Fremantle are 9th at the bye, he'll see out the season. I'm past the point now where I have confidence in the Fremantle Football Club administration to make a decision. It feels like there is paralysis around Justin Lemuel at the Fremantle Football Club, paralysis that is starting to really erode this premiership window. It was fine in 2023 when it was a disaster year off a peak final season. It was okay in 2024 because it was a higher ladder position, and you know what? All the contracts were being signed. 2025 was a failure. 2025 was a failure. There is no way around that. For a team that probably should have finished top 4, and I don't want to hear it about the inflated win count of the season, they didn't. and they could have. And they really probably should have, but they didn't. And then they crashed out of finals in week 1. Admittedly, to a very good side that's on the way up, but it still happened.
Yeah. I think I'll come to Dockers in a second because I've got them in my in-betweeners. I agree with a lot of the sentiment you're saying, but I'm putting a little bit more faith, I suppose, in the list that we've got, which is, fool me once, shame on me, Jesse. Fool me 7 times, then fuck, I don't know what's going on. But it's
the list is very good.
Yes, it is.
Down to about player number 18. And then it's a long tail. You talk about depth for Sydney and St Kilda. I mean, if we're still seeing Isaiah Dudley and Bailey Bamford, and this is not personal hate directed at either of these
Of course not. No, we don't know them.
But ultimately, like we need to be a little bit realistic about when we're talking about teams that want to be top 4. Like, you can't get by with Wagner, Banfield, Dudley, and Mason Cox all playing in your best 23. That's a handbrake.
Well, I'll quickly finish my wildcarders, Jesse, because I also had I've said the Swans as aforementioned, the Giants and the Pies. I ended up with the Bulldogs and the Wildcarders, and I think looking back on reflection, might be unders for the Dogs. I think they've actually got a big season ahead of them. I think that they're a massive scoring team. They showed so much promise last year and were just hampered by a few injuries early on, and they couldn't quite get their. They were this close. In a season that was chock-a-block full of wins at the top end, they were this close. And again, it's just kind of the victim of circumstance, I suppose, when I was putting this list together, because I think they're going to be a very good team this year and can definitely push up into the in-betweeners. Where I have Freo. I do have Freo in the in-betweeners. I think this is a minimum standard, I think, for this season.
Oh, 100%.
I
could not agree more. If we're not talking... I think top 4 is your pass mark for Justin Longmuir and the Fremantle Football Club. That is what I believe.
I think the only reason I'm slightly hesitant to say that is because of the quality that is above Fremantle at the moment, and they're
sure,
at least.
But how long have they been telling us that this is the first Fremantle to win a premiership? They've set this expectation now.
La. Don't hear it. Don't hear about it, Jesse.
It's not me. It's not me that set that expectation.
I know.
I'm not what's that. Look, okay. You know what? I'll rephrase. I'll give you top 6 as
Yeah, but I mean
that's probably fair.
I mean, just being a realist, you look at the teams that both you and I have above where the Dockers are, and you could potentially
can't compete tactically with any of them.
No, not at all. And you can probably put the Bulldogs above them, to be honest with you, in hindsight. Realistically, I think an in-betweeners, 5th or 6th, would be a good spot for them to at least finish season 2026. Another one that I kind of ho-hummed about, because our top 4s are the same, bar 1. Your in-betweeners. You have the Dogs in the in-betweeners, Jesse. My apologies. Do your in-betweeners first. We're all over the place. We haven't planned anything. Your in-betweeners, Jesse, the Bulldogs and the Cats. The Dogs and the Cats.
I'm liking the Bulldogs. I think this is much like Collingwood, but to a lesser extent. This is giving me Last Dance vibes for the Dogs with guys like Bontempelli and Liberatore.
Mm-hmm.
I get the sense that there is a clock on these players in terms of absolute peak of their powers and can still hurt teams in a premiership side. Now, obviously, Bontempelli and Liberatore were there for 2016, but they were also there for 2021. The unlosable grand final, that the wheels fell off and they got humiliated in Perth by Melbourne. They've not gotten close since, which is odd because of how good they were that season. I really think this is a year for the Dogs to rise. I was very close to putting them in top 4 at Brisbane's expense.
Wow, okay.
I acknowledge the defensive issues are an issue and it's a limiting factor for them. But every club in my top 5, so I'm going to go, I'll do Geelong in a second and then go back when we go up. But Bulldogs I had 5th. So every club in my top 5, I think they're going to beat up on opposition sides in a very similar way to last season, because all 5 of my top 5 can inflict serious pain with the football at a quick transition.
Yep.
And there's plenty of clubs in my wildcarders, in my upper quartile of the bottom 8, who they may have a list that, could keep it honourable on paper or keep it semi-competitive or competitive on paper even, but they just can't compete with the ball speed that these teams are going. The Dogs are one of those. So, it may be a case that they just flat track bully again this season and they just beat up on those teams below them, but they do struggle against sides in and around them on the ladder. That it may be a case of history repeating, but you got to remember they win one or two of those games, very different outcome, and that's true of everyone in that top 9 battle last season. But I think it's especially true for the Dogs because that was such a skewed statistic in a season of skewed statistics that they were so bad against teams above them, but were so lethal against teams below them. I think the penny might just drop just a tiny bit this season and get what they got out of Sam Darcy last season, keep Norton productive. Clearly, they're going to work on the defence in pre-season. If they don't work on the defence, I can't help them. But that is clearly going to be a push for them. My one concern is they were pretty desperate to recruit defenders in the trade window for agency, which just makes me a little bit nervous. Are they really resigned to the fact that the defenders just aren't that good?
Yep. So the only other differences we got, so that was the Dogs, right? Talking about the Dogs there. You got the Cats in there as well. I'll quickly jump over to my in-betweeners because I got Freo in there. I've also got the Hawks. I also like the Hawks. We both like the Hawks. Fun. Hawthorn win. But I think they're definitely a team on the rise. Again, this is coming back to what we had before. Like the 4 teams that I've got in the top 4, I think are still just ahead of them in quality and talent. Potentially, again, like interchangeable. I mean, it's a prediction, Jesse. Yeah, who cares? But again, the coin flip between the Hawks and the Cats is probably there as well. But I think the Hawks need to get anywhere in the vicinity of the top of the top 6, and they'll do well in the finals. I think they've got some finals reps under their belt now from last season. I think the season proper will be the proof in the pudding for the Hawks. And look, just because I got them in betweeners, it doesn't mean I don't think they're going to do very well. Let's move on, Jesse, to the Cats in the in-betweeners for yourself.
They are good enough to win 14 games, which should be enough to get them into the top 6. Whether they can win 16 games, I'm not sure. Hence why they've landed here.
And maybe they can, which is why they're in my top 4. Jesse, so that's the Cats. The team that we're too scared to fall, because every time we go every time we say, this is the Cats team.
I can't believe I got them this low, honestly. I was surprised. I was surprised I ended up with 6, but I wanted to make at least a semi-bold call.
I think
I feel like the Dogs are that.
I think the proof is in the pudding with the Cats that no matter how much we think they're going to slump, because it's their time. It's their time to go now because everyone else has done it in some capacity and they just haven't consistently for 20 years. The proof is in the pudding. They just don't. They know what to do. They know how to recruit, to replace. And
George Stevens to win the Brownlow.
George Stevens to win the Brownlow. There we go, Jesse. I don't know who that is. Okay, Jesse, that's the Cats out of the way. For the rest of them, we've got the Lions. I got the Lions. We both got the Lions. We both got the Suns, and we've both got the Adelaide Crows. The only difference between our top 4s is you've got the Hawks in the top 4. Why is that, Jesse?
Their brand of football is capable of beating any team in this competition, and we've seen that pretty consistently.
Yeah,
I mean, how good were they in the finals when they got the opportunity to shine? I know they didn't quite get all the way there. But gee, they were a very good side to watch. Oh, look,
they're scary. They're a scary young team as well. Like they're still, relatively. They seem to be that team that's kind of in the prime, like right now. Like that window is wide open, wide open. And I think I'm not too sure that's why I had them in the in-betweeners instead, because they've still got a little bit of that, is it even an experience?
No, I think they're there. I think they win the premiership this year. I think they are at the doorstep now where we can stop talking about Hawthorn as a future side and start talking about them as a now side. Same with Gold Coast, who I've got in there as well.
Yep.
The time is now for the Suns.
I'm pumped for the Suns this year. I'm pumped for the Suns this year. They've been my vibe side for so long, and I think this is the last year I didn't have them as my vibe side, and look what they did. They did very well. I think with their acquisitions as well.
Oh yeah,
and their coach, I think the sky's the limit for the Suns this year. That's for sure.
They're premiership material. As I've got the Lions in as well. Look, it's very hard to go against a 2-time defending champion. They've improved their list as well on balance. Oscar Allen's a very good addition for them too. Mm-hmm. I get the sense they're very happy just to win their 16, 17 games, be top 4. And get to the finals as they need to.
They'd be happy with that, Jesse. They'd be happy with that.
They haven't been. They've not been a dominant home and away side in the last 10 years, and they've been.
That's true.
I'll change this to 6 because they were quite crap in 2015. But certainly since Chris Fagan's gotten this side going, they've never been a dominant home and away side, but they've been a very consistent team who you get a very similar level of output for all season, and crucially, a good level of output against top sides. That will always see them in good stead. They'll be there and about this season. We've both got the Crows in our top 4, Liam. We're not concerned about the straight sets. We're pretty happy to say they'll march on and be fine.
No, I think the straight sets is well, it goes two ways, doesn't it, Jesse? You either use that as cannon fodder to stick up your butt and shoot you into the next season with vigor and fire, or you capitulate. I don't think the Crows are going to capitulate. I think they're going to come out next season with a bit more ruthless aggression, as it were, and want to take that straight sets exit and be like, okay, we've done that now. We finished minor premiers. We know we can do that part. The bit we didn't do was the finals. They're taking in, obviously a few changes to the list, but still a very strong list. I think that hoodoo from this year, I want to say last year, this year.
It's hard because we're in that. Yeah. We're in the Inbetweeners.
Yeah, we're in the Inbetweeners. We've got 3 weeks left. We can say last year.
Last season. Try last
season. Let's try last season, Jesse. Good feedback. Thank you very much. I think
I don't even need to leave a comment for that.
That's right.
Do it live.
Constructive. Yeah, very good. I think that's hopefully that beers out of the bonnet, and they're gonna be just fine next season for the finals. Potentially push through all the way to the end. I'm quite confident to say. I hope that's the case for Adelaide anyway, because it would be a real shame for them to take last year's success as it was, and completely, fumble it all and tumble down the ladder again. I don't think that's going to happen though.
Perfect. Well, Liam, that's our ladder. Let us know what you think in the comments of that, but we're not done just yet because we've got a few more bonus predictions. But do let us know your thoughts on our ladders below. Are you happy with where we've put teams? Are you unhappy with where we've put teams? Give us yours.
Yeah.
It's way too early. It's not too early for you to give one too. Give us yours. But Liam, we've got a few, rapid fire ones to get through before we clock off and go back to our day jobs. So what have we got up first?
Just okay. So we're going to do this like it's like a little awards night, a preseason awards night, the too early predictions awards night. We're going to start first of all with the Brownlow Medal. Who you and I think is going to win the Brownlow Medal for season 2026? I'll go first, Jesse. Why not? Why not? You go first with a lot of these things because you have much more to say most of the time.
Okay, so hurry up and do yours.
Wait a second. I'm going to think about what I'm going to say. No, I think Andrew Brayshaw I've got this year. Like, realistically, Brayshaw, Wanganeen-Miller, and Dacos. Those are your 3 names I think that are going to be at the top. I don't think that is a controversial take whatsoever. But if Fremantle can have the season that I think we both hope they will have, if they both have that season where they can string together a decent amount of wins and push up towards the top 4, Brayshaw is obviously going to be a very, very important part of that. And when you're a midfielder and a gun midfielder, it's really hard for the umpires to miss you. So I think that's I think if Andy has a good year, Free have a good year, I don't see that being a controversial take whatsoever. Jesse.
I agree. I've gone with Desire Wanganeen-Miller. To what you're saying is true, but I think it'll be more pronounced with Naz and dragging St Kilda into a wildcard spot. I know they've gotten a lot of shiny new toys in the factory line in the last couple of months. He's the best player in their team. He might be the best player in the competition. He might be that next season, and that's a very exciting spot to be.
I'm intrigued by Naz this year because he's obviously just signed the contract for a couple of years. And I said this when he signed it as well. I like the 2-year contract because it doesn't get you complacent. The longer period contracts make you kind of go, well, I'm chilling, I'm coasting now for the next 5, 6, 7 years. 2 years is still up for debate. At the end of that 2 years, he's still going to want to, be proving himself so he can get a even more bigger back check next time those conversations come around. Not to say that's how AFL players work. It's like, 8 years, no stress. I'll just chill now. Obviously, that's not how they work, but I'm intrigued to see how Naz takes this year to the next level.
Coaches can do that for at least 6.
At least 6, Jesse.
And get ongoing employment agreements. So
Data doesn't lie. Jesse, anything else you want to add for the way too early Brownlow? Or should we move on?
Let's move on.
All right, the Coleman Medal, Jesse. That's our next one off the ranks. You can go first this time. Who you got?
I think Ben King. I think he's going to be the spearhead that kicks 75 goals next season and puts the Suns right in the frame for a premiership.
Fantastic. Riley Philthorpe is my shout. He's going to kick 76 goals and pip Ben King 75 goals for the Coleman. No, I think
you did wait for me to do mine.
No, yes, because if this happens at 75-76 at the end of the year, next season, then yes, I did. And I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I bought a lot of ticket, Jesse. And I think Riley Phil Thorpe's going to be the spearhead for the Crows next year. I think Tex is going to take a big step back. Did he retire? I can't even remember. I don't think he did. Did he? No, did one more year. But I think Thorpe is going to be the centerpiece for that forward line now, using your Texas and your Fogartys as side. I nearly said side bitches.
As human shields.
Yes, human shields for Riley. So I think he's going to have a big year as well, and he's my shout for the Coleman. Chuck a $5 on it. I might do that. Jesse, shall we go for the next one, the Rising Star?
I think so.
Let's do it. So way too early Rising Star prediction, Jesse. Look, you can go first this time. Go on.
I've put Sam Cumming in. I think that there's a real excitement around what he's going to be for Richmond. He'll get game time. As long as he gets through preseason unscathed, he's probably going to play most games this season if he stays healthy. That's a big factor when you're looking for a Rising Star potential winner.
Sure.
And also, there's a lot of upside with him. You can go crash and bash through. He'll do all the things that that recruiters, selectors, umpires love to say. They want players going in hard at these things. I think Cumming will win the Rising Star.
Very good. I've gone Cooper Duff Tytler, not Titler like you said earlier, you idiot. Cooper Duff Tytler. Now, the reason for this is obviously the Ruckmen very rarely get a look in with these awards. But the reason I've gone this direction is because of the new ruck rule that's coming in. There's a really good opportunity for the Eagles to kind of take a young ruckman who's still got he's athletic and he's big and really, really take this rule and use it to their advantage. So
it will be very funny when Bailey Williams plays round one.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But you know what? If you got a team like the Eagles, you got a team like the Tigers, there's a good chance that their top picks are going to be playing, right? In some capacity, you would think. So, I wasn't going to go ahead and choose someone like Eulens because he's going to be fighting for spots. He'll probably play, but he's going to be fighting amongst the best people in the Suns.
And that's exactly why he's not, I think he's the best player in the draft class.
Yeah, 100%.
It's why he's not my Rising Star.
Yeah, correct. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. The only reason I've gone Duff Tytler is because I'm intrigued to see how this new ruck rule goes and how they're wanting to get the big jumping rucks back in. Hey, maybe he'll leave an impression and he'll be the Rising Star, Jesse. Hey, be interesting to see.
Well, what do you got for us next?
It's our flops, Jesse. It's our flops. This one might be the controversial ones of the night, but we'll go.
Oh, please, they've all gone home by now.
That's probably true. The way too early flop prediction. I'll put a little title. I'll put a little thing at the bottom so people know like the chapter is biggest flops. They can scroll right to this point and be like, right, who they're going to talk about now. I'll start with mine, Jesse. This time
Okay.
I've just gone the Saints are big ins in general, right? So obviously we all know that the St Kilda have chucked a lot of cash at a handful of players. But outside those handful of players, I'm talking about your DeConnings, your Sylvanis, your Liam Ryans. Oh, Jesse's got $1. What are you giving that $1 for, Jesse? You throwing money at me? You throwing money at me?
I'm throwing it at Tom.
Tom. Here's my big concern. Here's why I think this to be a big flop. Obviously, they've brought in Sam Flanders, which I don't think is going to be as bad. And I'm not counting all their new recruits in this. But I'm talking about these big name trades they've thrown the books at. DeConning's already proven he's a little bit prone to injury. Sylvani and Liam Ryan are not getting any younger. There's a big chance, and it's a prediction, there's a big chance that these three don't play that much this year, either on the back of injury or on the back of just, probably that mostly, because they're getting on. I'm not entirely sure how this whole experiment's going to work, but I don't think it's going to be all that pretty. I think this is part of the reason why I had St Kilda written lower outside of the wildcard race in my ladder predictions, is because I think this risk, whilst is a big risk, and obviously with risks it can really pay off, I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be a bit of a stinker for the Saints, which is a shame to say. And look, and like you said before, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping this is a really good thing for the Saints because it's been a minute for them. They need a bit of love. They need a little bit of success coming their way as well. But I just don't know. I just don't know if this is it, Jesse. So that's my flop prediction.
Just very quickly, I agree with you that this is not the premiership list, that they seem to think that it is. I think there's if they can't make wildcard with this, that is
a flop.
Well, it's more than it's more than a flop. It is probably the single biggest list management failure of the 21st century. Because they've told us this is big boy pants are on. This is our premiership team. They've gone and recruited. They spent every cent of their salary cap. They've allegedly upset players within the team like Rowan Marshall and Cal Wilkie, allegedly they were upset with the way their roles were being handled. They burnt Lee Kalia, they left him at the altar.
Yeah.
They've made it clear that they're big boys now, and they've got their big boy pants on. I think they have to improve off last season, right? They have to with this list. But, but also, Jesse, at the same time, what you're saying is true as well, which makes this a very interesting watch.
Outside of these ins, right? What else has changed with the St. Kilda?
Well, Max King's probably the big one.
If he plays.
Exactly.
If he plays. But what else outside of Max King and these guys here? And again, that kind of feeds into what I'm saying, though. Like this uncertainty. Well,
you're relying on your Taroos, your Camaninis, your Travalias, Max Hall's very highly rated. You're relying on these guys to step up.
Which is great for the future of the club. But in terms of the right now, these players has the potential to be a massive flop. Anyway, Jesse, your flop, please.
This is going to go one of two ways, right? So I've put this in because I didn't want to be safe with this and say, like, ha, look at this team that's bad and they're going to be bad again next year. See you next week.
Sure.
I am worried about how Charlie Curnow is going to fit in with Sydney, purely because I don't rate any of Sydney's other forwards, with the exception of Will Hayward. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I can see Charlie Curnow becoming Nick Larkey too, where 3 defenders go to him because, you know what, if Joel Amarty's on a guy 10 centimetres shorter than him, I'm okay with that. Like, from a Freo point of view, I think Luke Ryan is a very ordinary defender. I'd be happy for Luke Ryan to go stand near Joel Amarty if it means that Pearson Cox can just rotate off Curnow and just constantly annoy him in the air.
Yeah.
Like, that's a win for me tactically. I can take that risk. If Amarty kicks 2, that's fine. Curnow's going to probably battle for his 2 against 2 defenders. I'm probably winning the contest there. Like, yeah. I don't think necessarily Curnow will play poorly, necessarily, but I think his impact will not be as grand as people are maybe hoping for Sydney.
Yeah. All right, Jesse. One more slide to get to, and it's a bit of an easy end to the episode, and that is our way too early sacked coach predictions. There's no Liam, no Jesse on this slide because I think we've both got, and this is probably not a controversial one either. You've already mentioned Michael Voss. You've already mentioned Brad Scott as potentials for the coaches to be gone by the end of round 24 next year.
If Carlton are 14th at the bye, we won't see any more of Voss. If Essendon are as poor on field as they were last season, we won't see any more Brad Scott.
Yep. I think it's fairly safe to say. There are a few other coaches I'm sure we would talk about, and I think there is at least one that we would like to.
I just know he's not going to be sacked.
He's not, though, is he?
I'm too old for this.
This young whippersnapper's too old for it, is he? Oh no.
I don't think unless it was a 2007 style year for Fremantle where they were 14th, so I guess the equivalent 16th nowadays. Unless it was a season like that when Connolly got the flick for Mark Harvey, it's not going to happen. There's no premiership in the strategic plan.
No, because
it's all about connection with the fan base now.
Yeah.
Haven't you heard? Actually, you know what? That's the win of the season.
That's the Fremantle dropping the Coldplay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah! I was so happy.
That is the step in my master plan to improve Fremantle. Which, guess what? It includes getting rid of the chevrons because I hate the chevrons. Hey, Liam, that's all we really have time for. I think.
It is, yes, it is. No, I think that's a good place to end, Jesse. Why don't you send the lovely people home?
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast. We have gone way too early, like Bill Collins on his call of Kingston Town in 1982 Cox Plate. Kingston Town can't win, Bill Collins said. Kingston Town won. And we've done the same thing here, making some very early predictions. Let us know what you think of them down in the comments. Leave a like, a subscribe if you're on YouTube, a review if you're on one of our preferred podcasting platforms, and tell us in the comments. You can tell us on Spotify. You can tell us on YouTube.
Of course.
What is your biggest controversial or big call? Don't need to make it controversial. Please, nothing offensive.
No.
Your big call for season 2026. Also,
hot take.
As hot as you can get without causing the channel to be shut down. We would appreciate that. Also, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone at the Christmas dinner. We'll probably fit in one more episode before Christmas.
Yeah, why not?
But, you know, if you're spending Christmas in a celebrationary way, make sure you tell everyone around you about the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast, even if they don't want to hear it. Until next time, I'm Jesse. That's Liam. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your scorching summer and enjoy England continuing to lose to Australia in the cricket. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.